Let's look at the passage before us, running the race, looking unto Jesus. Now the Greek had for a long time had this race in the Olympic Games that was very unique. We don't have it today. The winner was the runner who finished, was not the runner who finished first, but it was the runner who finished with his torch still lit. That means he ran with the torch lighted, and it must continue to be lighted at the end of the race. We do not have it today. The Greek name is there. Basically, I don't want to try to pronounce it. There are 3 or 4 versions of how to pronounce that Greek word. It basically means a torch race. You carry a torch and you race with it. The idea is the torch must be lit all the way. We don't have it today. Now, do you know that Hebrews 12 also teaches that we believers are in a race? We are in a race, but a different race. It is not one of speed, so we don't think about today's Olympic or any race that you are involved in. But this race is also about making it to the end. Unlike the Olympics of old, we must hold our torch up, indicating the flame of fervor and life that is still there at the end. So it's not just to start right, must end well. Your torch is lit still at the very end. But how do we get there? How do we run this very unique race? I call it the race of faith, with all the unending challenges. Every one of us face challenges, but let's be encouraged. The race that we are in, there will be eternal gratifying rewards. I like to refer to this Joseph M. Stowell, who happened to be the president of my seminary that I studied in. This is what he wrote in his devotion. I don't know that I have ever met anyone who doesn't want to finish well. Everybody wants to finish well. Ending life with as few regrets as possible and a minimum of shame is what I have set my heart on. But every athlete will tell you that finishing well is the most difficult part of the race. It is not starting the race, but finishing well. It is easy to start with a burst of speed. First dash, you go. Determination. But as we go on, our desire cools down. We get tired, we get burned out. Life distracts us with worries, concern, or plain busyness. We forget our goal. We lose our sight of the end. And soon interruption comes, trial, setback, seduction lures us to temporary satisfaction that promise to soothe our weariness. I think he's speaking exactly what we all are feeling. If you're in a race, you know what it means to be tired, what it means to be distracted, what it means to be discouraged. This must sound familiar to you. We are in a race of life. More precisely, if you read Hebrews, we are in the race of the faith for those of us in Christ. I hope you're not tired out already. As we begin the year 2025, look at the author of Hebrews. And I believe he has 4 exhortations for us today. We must run the race, we must get it right, we must ensure also we finish well. So I think this message is fitting for the start of the year. And this message of Hebrews is directed to us believers, running the race, looking unto Jesus. I think we have a first point here. When you read the verse that says, I read to you, I like to read from the, let's read from the ESV. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a crowd of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Verse 2 says, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of God. Now, I'm a KJV guy from donkey years ago. I always do comparison. The KJV says, wherefore seeing we are also compassed with so great a crowd, let us lay aside every sin, weight, and the sin which beset us. And let us run with patience, all right, endurance, patience. The race that is, let us looking unto, the different looking unto, and then the ESV says looking to, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand throne of God. The first point I believe we can draw from this verse is the idea of remembering. Remembering those who have gone before us. Now, how was your 2024? You might want to reflect. I'm sure you all have challenges. I have mine too. Some of us have hit in study, some of us have hit in health, whether it's finance or work or relationship, but some of us struggle in our faith, our walk, our encounter. But how bad can it be? How bad was it? Let us see what the early believers encountered. Hebrews tells us that the early believers, especially Hebrews 11, they stood for their faith. They were tested, they suffered, they led exemplary life of sacrifices. They were tested, they were persecuted. Most of them are listed in Hebrews 11. They are an example for us to follow, to challenge us what it means to be living, walking, running the race for Christ. Yes, these are important. I'm not saying the mundane things of life are not important, but running the race must go beyond the mundane activities and pursuits of life. For the soul, for us, the race of faith requires that we must even be ready to lay down our life. Let's look at verse 1, which says that, therefore we are compassed about, or the KJV said, wherefore. Both means the same. We cannot, therefore is, or wherefore is a connecting word, and you have to read chapter 11. You have to go back to chapter 11 and see there's a whole list of champions of the faith, heroes of the faith. These have undergone tremendous, life-challenging, threatening situations. They paid for their life with, for their faith with their life and death. These are what was referred as the cloud of witnesses. The cloud of witnesses are the heroes of faith, and therefore, or wherefore is a connecting word. So seeing these clouds of witnesses, now this is our response. This is how we read verse 1. And what is our response? Remember. Remember those who have gone before us, that we are surrounded by great witnesses. Remember. Hebrews 11 will, if you see the long list of heroes, it comes from Abel, Enoch, Abraham, Isaac, Joseph, Moses, Rahab, Gideon, Samson, David, Samuel, and all the prophets. So many witnesses before us. The idea is that they have left a legacy, a trail of faith. They have held the torch fully lit with commitment and passion right to the end of their life. Now, we don't know the heroes personally, but we can learn from them. We can learn from the life that they live for Christ. This cloud of witnesses bears us life testimonies. We like to hear testimonies. They have testimonies. What it means to follow the Lord, to run the race. Now we do well to learn from them. These witnesses ranges from ordinary people to prophets. But they are ordinary because they have life challenges. They also have failures. They struggle, they battle, but they held on. They believe. And now we are exhorted. Remember them. Remember them, and therefore understand you are not alone. You are not alone in this race of life, in this life of faith. I know we tend sometimes to get discouraged. I know we tend sometimes to be feel down and trodden, as if you're only one bearing the cross, bearing the burden of the church. You do? Yes, sometimes we get tired. But remember, there are clouds of witnesses there. Those who have gone before us, faithful servants of God. They set us example that you must run. Run with patience. Run with endurance. Hold on to the torch. Let it be lighted at the end. And I think someday when we come to that stage, we will be able to sing, it will be worth it all. When we see Jesus, life's trials then will seem so small when we see Christ. Once glimpse of his dear face, all sorrows will erase. So let's bravely run the race till we see Christ. As we we remember the crowd of witnesses. I cannot help but during this past week think of one who has been very recently called home to be with the Lord, the late Elder Khoo, so dearly loved by so many. Elder Khoo has touched so many lives with his exemplary life of humility, faith, simplicity. If you want to say the crowd of witnesses, he is one of them. He tells you that it's worth living, worth running the race. But of course, he's in the bliss of God's presence. He's there. But he will tell you it will be worth it all. The second point, as we look at this verse, wherefore remember, look at it. It says that we are to run with perseverance the race marked before us. Again, and the other version says we are to lay aside every weight, the sin. Let us run with patience. Running with patience, running with endurance, running with perseverance, the same. And all men's the same, the race that is set before us. So I want to consider the second point. First you remember, then run. Run the race. For those of us who have gone before us, now for us, we are to look ahead. I'd like you to imagine a runner. A runner, can you imagine a runner who runs but always keep turning back, keep looking back? Then you must be wondering, how can he concentrate on the race? How can a runner keep looking back? The first challenge to us is always to move ahead. Yes, you remember that there were people before you. Yes, you remember. But you don't just keep looking back. The second point is that we may momentarily glance back, but never look back and be held back. Some of us keep looking back to the past, keep looking back to past glories, past achievement, and then you are held back. In real life race, we may glance behind for a while, but we never stop running. You ask the runner, the athlete, he will tell you, never be distracted. Sometimes he may just simply glance, where is his next, the one catching up. But he only glance, he never get held back. Most people find difficult, especially if you start glancing back, looking back, oh, I need a break. I need to recharge. Sometimes the break takes too long. You realize it? Some people who say they want a break, they really break. They really break too long. No wonder the Hebrews author says, run with patience. Run with endurance. Don't give up. So as you consider this year, yes, remember the past. Remember good example. But run. Run the race set before you. Keep running. Don't keep looking back. Don't sigh and regret. Some people sigh and regret. Oh, yeah, I should have done that. No, forget about it. Let's move forward. Don't sigh and regret. It gets you nowhere. Don't rejoice and live on the past glories. There are really some people who always look back to the past glories. This is my legacy. So what? I want to pass the legacy to my son. So what? Is that what the Lord wants you to do? Let's not live on past glories. Don't be so hung up about those were the days. Yes, in the text we are told to run with patience, run with perseverance. This is a tall order, but not impossible. We have always likened the Christian race to the athlete in the Olympics as far as endurance and winning the prize. But again now I want to bring you to the difference. The Olympics of the days and running the Christian race. The Christian race is not about speed. Do you realize? It is not about how fast you get there. If it's how fast Why should a 93-year-old Elder Khoo be fighting on all the way? The sooner he get there, better. Or we get there, better. No, it's not about speed. Paul never meant how fast we get there, but getting there in God's good timing. Do you know that there are critical difference between the race, Christian race, and the competitive race? Let's consider this. The similarities first. If you think about today's race and the Christian race, it is both a race. It is a race. We are running. We are not throwing. We are not taking a walk in the park. It's a race. All right, fair. Then there's a definite goal line, end point. Similar. I think it's similar. Our destination is up there. It's a like end point is a goal line. Then we are running. We are not taking a walk, as I mentioned. We are not taking a stroll. We are running. We are runners. Or even though you say we say walk in the worthy of the Lord, we actually meant the same. Walking worthy, running the race. All right, we meant the same. Now these are the similarities, very easy to understand. How about the differences? Differences is this. Today's race is about competition. Which athlete go in and says, no, I don't want to compete to win. I don't mind to be the last. Then you're not suited to be there at all. Today's athlete is going there to compete. But our race of life, the Christian race, is one of comradeship. We move together. That's why the community of believers comes in. That's why the local church comes in. That's why we must have care group. That's why we must move together, encourage each other, because there will be people like us who get discouraged along the way, who need a helping hand. All right, so the difference is competition versus comradeship. So we are fellow comrades. We travel together. We are not competing against each other. Then the second difference I will suggest is, in the competition that today, only one winner. There can only be one champion, one runners up, maybe second runners up. But for all of us, we are all winners. As long as we reach the destination where Christ is, till we see Christ, we are winners in God's eyes, because you have been faithful till the very end. That is the difference, critical difference. And then the last point I want to consider, that we, in the race that is set for the athlete, they all start at the same point. They have to measure the same starting point or the distance. But for us believers, we start at a different point. Some of us are saved at the age of 12. Some of us are saved at the age of 50. Some even 60s, 70s. But we are all in that same race, different starting point. So what? The Lord has, it says in the verse, run the race that is set before us. That means God set different race before you. Different, right? God saved us at different time. At different time we start the race, but we have the same end point. This explains why when the difference, the one who is wheelchair bound, if you compare the one with the wheelchair bound, you cannot belittle his or her faith. So what? Physically not challenged, but who knows, she or she is a great example of faith. The wheelchair bound against the great preacher who lived to ripe old age, or the short-lived modern day, we have the German theologian Bonhoeffer. Bonhoeffer was hanged for plotting against Hitler, and he died at the age of 39. Elder Khoo is 93. Maybe that's why I tell you the difference. Whether at age 39, 93, they all ran a race that was set before them. And whether you are well physically, Fanny Crosby, the great author, a blind composer, but did the Lord not use her? The Lord used her tremendously. The idea is that they all ran faithfully. They all ran with whatever energy God enables them, gives them. This is the life that they were meant to live, the race that they were meant to run. Now, you should understand very easily the similarities and the difference. Now you can perhaps understand why the verse says we are to run with patience, run with endurance. We do so because there is a specific, different race set before us. You cannot expect that your race will be exactly the same as somebody else. When you look at somebody else, you think, well, he has, or she has a good life, man. Wow, very smooth, very prosperous. He make it, he have a career mark. By 30, 40, he make it. Then here you are struggling, trying to provide. You have problems sometimes making ends meet. Come on, it's different race. Different race. The idea is we are faithful. How has your race running been the last past year? I also want to ask, when we run with patience, we run with care. Sometimes when we run, especially in the competitive race, some of them are 不择手段. When they run, they will think of winning by tripping you, blocking you, right? Stumbling you, so that they will win. Have you tripped and stumbled anyone along the way? Have you discouraged your fellow runners more than encourage him or her? Have you stretched out your hands, your hearts, to those who need that extra lift, the extra push? When I say we are not competing against each other, I also mean that while we are not competing against each other, we are competing with other elements. For example, we are competing against time. We are competing against evil influences, the evil one. We have problem competing with time, management of time. Have you considered how you are honoring the Lord in the keeping of time? Or have you dishonored Him with the keeping of time? Have you considered whether you have managed your time for prayer, for seeking of the Lord, for the reading, to praying for the lost, serving Him? They say that procrastination is a big time waster or time stealer. You procrastinate, time flies, and then you lost time. Then you feel regretful, but sorry, that's gone. If we have done that in 2024, let's seriously resolve to do better this year. As disciples of Christ, we can be disheartened. We can be also envious of some people who are doing well, seemingly doing well, seemingly victorious in the faith. But remember, we run the race that is set before us. Don't begrudge anyone. Don't compare. Just run, be faithful. The idea of patience or endurance in the Greek word has the idea of steadfastness. Right? Running with patience, endurance has the idea of steadfastness and constancy. Has the idea of steadfastly waiting. Has the idea of steadfastly sustaining, holding on. Who says this race is easy? No. There are times you have to hang on. You have to try to be consistent. You have to keep waiting, keep trying, trusting. This race is different from the modern day race. We run with patience. Athlete runs and train very well. The athlete will discuss with his coach. If you are in the race, you discuss with your coach how to engage, how to run effectively, what are the strategy, is there any breathing techniques, is there any other advice that you can get so that you run and do well. Then the coach will bring up some training schedule. Follow this discipline, practice it. When you practice it, you achieve a goal of running. But the thing about race is until you get into the path, until you get into the lane, these are just talk. You can be practicing, learning, but the main thing is you are in the race. You must start the race. You must start running. It only makes sense when you are on the track. Too many believers today merely discuss about Christian walk. Agree? Some of us discuss so much about Christian walk, discuss this, discuss that, talk about this. You're only talking. You're not running. We don't just talk about the race. We walk and run the race. We don't just discuss strategy. We literally run. And that means you get on the track, you run. of course, may God help us remember those who have gone before us. May God help us to run the race. May God help us to run with patience. Well, there's another third point. The third point is, when you run the race, there will be hindrances. Let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. That means when you run, there will be weight. There will be sin that try to cling on to you. Why? To disrupt your momentum, to discourage you. You have seen some people train. They wear weight or put weight at the ankle, right? Some of them train. Then they put weight so that, but those weight are meant for training only. They are meant to train for endurance. There must be some truth that these weights will help in your endurance. There must be some truth. But in the actual race, who have seen in the actual race people put on weight to run? Who? You must say not to do that. In the actual race, you don't carry weight. Right? You don't carry weight in the actual race. You put aside all the weight. Enough of all the weight. In the actual race, you run and put all this aside. We cannot imagine why people carry weight in the actual race. You would think he's gone off. No sensible person will do that. But I always wonder why Christians carry weights, not physical weights. Christians sometimes carry weight, and this weight becomes hindrances. We run with weight. We don't let go. What are the weights I'm referring to? I'm referring to the weights that set us back. I'm referring, especially in this verse, the sin that beset the child, the sin that hinders. No sensible person will carry weight, but yet we carry weight of past baggages. You know, a lot of us carry weight, but our baggage of the past. Because of the past like that, you carry on, you never let go of the past. You are trapped. You are trapped in past incident that you cannot move on. You keep, that past incident traps you and sustain fears. You have baggages of ill feeling. Some of us have baggages of unwillingness to forgive. We hold grudge. We refuse to be reconciled. Some of us, we refuse to change. Any change is bad. We fear change because when there's change, we must adapt. We fear change in general, so we run with this weight. But we know that it's not sensible to do that. All this impede growth, trust, and faith in moving forward. So in order to be a runner, there's much we can learn from the runner today. There are things you must do. There are things that you must not do. There are things that you must carry along, faith. But there are things that you must let go. Right? One thing that you must deal with is definitely unconfessed sin. It's already clear in the verse, the sin that cling on to us so badly. Right? It's in the verse, the sin. I call it the unconfessed sin. The sin that we are unwilling to confess. The sin that is so subtle, it deludes the sinners. The sin that sometimes is so enticing, looks so innocent, but it besets us. So it takes us serious heart searching. There's no better time to do it at the beginning than at the beginning of 2025. Forget about 2024, let's move on 2025. Let's start with some soul searching. Maybe today you go back, you can start do that. Or maybe in prayer you ask the Lord, show me how I can move on, how I can really be a disciple of Christ, how I can really run the race. Show me where I can let go, how I can throw aside some weights, past baggages, how I should not let all this hinder. Then, Lord, show me any sin. Help me to confess. These are good exercise. When you really do that, I believe God will be pleased. The Holy Spirit will help us to get right with Him. And unless we are willing to remove, the third point, of course, is removing the hindrances. If you are not willing to be removed from the hindrances, then you will always be set by it. So we have seen how to remember those set before us, to run the race set before us, and then to remove hindrances. I have a fourth point. I think it's time to refocus. Refocus on what really matters. I am sure I have given this analogy before, but never mind. I really like this analogy and this story. It's called Plato's cave. Basically, there's some people here sitting with the back to the front, to the opening of the cave. In his Republic, Plato had a conversation with his brother Glaucon. So Plato speaks with Glaucon and Socrates. And Socrates is trying to explain to Glaucon that human understanding of reality is more like seeing shadows. They're trying to grasp what shadows mean, To illustrate 3 points, he tells us of a cave where human beings are tied, chained from very young. They face a wall. The back are looking inward. The back is facing the opening of the cave. So when you look inside, it's dark. Your back, the lights come from behind. And the light that shines from behind comes into the cave. And then you see shadows. That's what this is. They are carrying it casts the shadow there. The light coming in casts shadows. There's no way that Socrates says that no way for them to distinguish what is real or not real, because it's shadow. They will only know what is shadow. If now they go in and free this guy and bring them out to the open, they will suddenly have blindness because they're not used to the light. And only as they slowly get adjusted to the light and they focus, then now they will not see shadow. Now they will see reality. From Glaucon, we get the word glaucoma. There are quite a number eligible. I also eligible. Eligible for glaucoma, the disease of the eye that put pressure on the eyeball, so that if you have glaucoma, you will see shadowy image. Right? You will see shadowy image. Sometimes it results in clouded vision. Even in our day, Glaucon is the name of the medication used to fight glaucoma. In life, we are prone to see shadows. And to make the application, we may be suffering from the glaucoma of the soul without knowing. In life, in our walk with the Lord, sometimes we suffer from glaucoma of the soul. We are pressed from all sides. We give in to pressure. We cannot distinguish what is important, not so important, what is priority, what is not priority. Then we get mixed up with our priorities. We see shadows as real. They are temporal, right? And we see wealth, pleasure, position as so important. But do you know these are shadowy image? Pleasure, wealth, position come and go. When the Lord strikes, all this is gone. What is important? Happiness, peace, and joy in the Lord. That is sustaining. So let's not be given to the glaucoma of our soul, seeing things for not their true value, tempted to get astray, not understanding what eternity value is. Our vision get crowded, our right emphasis are not made. We lose sight of what really pleases the Lord. We lose our focus. The world exerts extensive pressure on us. Agree? The world exerts a lot of pressure on our spiritual eyes, such that we are clouded. So the first point I'm thinking of is we need to refocus. And again, it's good to start from here, refocus. That means you try to re-evaluate things. the verse says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before us, him endured the cross, despising the shame, sat down on the right hand of God. The idea of looking unto Jesus, now where is one of focus. Have you, after you have removed all the hindrances, must refocus. And here we are exhorted to look unto Jesus. Now that, again, when you read different version, some version tells you, KJV tells you, look unto Jesus. ESV tells you, look to Jesus. Now, but at least I know when I study, I do word study. When I do study, looking unto Jesus, looking to Jesus, basically means the same. At least it is not looking at Jesus. What is the difference? When you look unto and you look to Jesus, it means that you look in absolute dependence. He becomes your goal. Your focus, he becomes your focus. He becomes your prize. And then you get things right. When you look at Jesus, some of us look at things, but if you just merely look at it, the looking at has no reference to commitment, dependence. I just saw him, so I saw that. A lot of people can see without commitment, without dependence. Looking unto, looking to has the idea of dependence rather than looking at. Many people look at things, but all perceived differently, not moved. They can look at certain things, they are not moved at all. You look at a nice picture, you look at it, you have no impression. But there are people who look at the thing and they're drawn to it. All right, so looking unto Jesus, looking to Jesus, don't just look at. Don't look at, look unto. Look with dependence heart. Focus on what really matters in life. So it's time to refocus. I've explained what it means, look unto Jesus, who for the joy that was set before us. The verse says he gave up heaven's glory. The verse says he came to us. He endured the shame. He suffered at the cross. He did not remain defeated, but he conquered death, sin, and hell. And then now he's seated at the right hand of God. Yet, for too long, some of us still run the race, not willing to stop glancing. Some of us still run carrying worldly goods and possession. Not that possessions are bad, but we are carried and beset by it. We are brought down by it. Some of us look with things with a lot of longing and affection. Then you lose your affection for Christ. Some of us clamor for the lights of the world. You miss the fact that Jesus is the light of the world. You miss all this. Parents, there are parents here. Sometimes we stress the wrong value for our child, parents. Sometimes we quit pushing them to achieve, excel. We are sending wrong message to them. We're telling them and eternity don't count. Grab hold of whatever the world can offer. Sorry, this is not your task. You should be helping them to focus on things that are right. Parents play an important part. Leaders too. Help them to focus on the right things of life. Help them to achieve the right thing. And we're not saying help them to deny all the necessity of life, no. But you have to help them to refocus. So do not lose focus. That's my last point. Refocus. And our focus must be on Christ. Why? Because he's the author and the finisher of our faith. He's the one who gives us life. He's the one who's going to sustain us to the very end. He's the one who's going to give us, who promised eternal life, but also abundant life. All right. So don't lose your focus. Refocus. Just remember the camera. You will understand why there's a need to refocus. I like to end just by summarizing the 4 pointers. Remember those who have gone before us. Run the race that's set before us. No more strolling around. No more brisk walking in the faith. Run. Get on the track. Run. And then remove hindrances. There must be some besetting sin. Something may have hindered your walk. Let's remove them. And then refocus. evaluate priorities. Evaluate what is important to life and submit them to Jesus. Looking unto Jesus. Submit them to Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. Remember what he has done for us. And remember, we can only pay them back if he finds us faithful. And of course, I've just chosen the song, Find Us Faithful. We will sing it at the end, but the hymn has meant a lot to me, especially I just want to stress a few stanzas that you'll be singing. There'll be one stanza that says, we are surrounded by so great a crowd of witnesses. Let us run the race, not only for the prize, but as those who have gone before us, let us live to those behind us. That means you look to those before us, but you also you leave behind for others the heritage of faithfulness. Your children, do you leave behind this kind of heritage that should be passed on through godly life? I like this stanza also. After all, our hopes and dreams have come and gone, and our children sift through all that we have left behind. Things reminds me someday I will be gone. I don't know whether I'll be gone tomorrow or next year, but someday my children may look at my belongings, look at through all my books, and then they will see my children sift through all that we have left behind. Will they find clues? May the clues that they discover, will they find clues from my books, literature, or whatever? Will they find clues, discover truth, and will they uncover memories? And then all these clues and memories, will they become the light that will lead them to this same race? And the race is that we may all be found faithful. May God help us.